Welcome into the PHNX Cardinals podcast presented by the DraftKings Sportsbook app, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Chierstin Susel here with Johnny Venerable. And Johnny, I am still kind of in shock over what happened last night on our show with Frank getting his Kliff Kingsbury tattoo finally. It's like, did that really happen?
Yeah, we woke up this morning. It kind of felt like a dream, and the fallout is still very real, as you're seeing on Twitter this afternoon. So, no, it definitely did happen. I'm anxious to get a look at it. I don't know about you, Chierstin, when we go in the studio on Friday, and we're seeing how it's like healing. But it looked fantastic last night.
Yeah, I was shocked. Like, I don't know anything about tattoos, so I was shocked that after it was done, it was just like, it like wasn't swollen. There was no like blood. There was no like,
right.
I'm sure it'll maybe scab or whatever, but like it looked probably like it's going to look right after he got it done. So that was pretty cool to see. But of course, Kliff Kingsbury had a media availability today, and I had to pop on, ask him some questions about that tattoo. So if you missed what went on last night, we've got a little recap of it all mixed in with some questions and answers from Kliff's press conference today. It's Johnny Venerable. Oh, and Frank Sanders is here getting his tattoo by Ernie and Top Rocker Tattoo. It's finally happening.
It is.
Live on our show.
This is what we said was going down. The purpose of it is for all the things I said about Kliff right now, literally is I'm sucking it up because it's perfect.
I thought Frank was a really good player, so I did like him, and in the pros as well.
How cool is that, Frank?
Are you emotional now? I almost got emotional right then. I apologize. I didn't know that.
He knows my name.
I mean,
I love it, Frank.
Nice.
K2 with PHNX underneath, and then a cardinal around it. Wow. I love it.
I'm gonna whoop
Great
so
job,
much
Ernie.
butt on the golf course with this tattoo.
Like it?
Like I love it, but it's crazy. Like I just couldn't. You know, they were saying that earlier, you know, a while back before you showed up, man. And it was always that, you know, tattoos are like forever. And this thing is like forever, but it looks fly, though.
Wondering if you've ever had something like that from another player.
Not a male.
So what? Does he have a bunch of girls walking around with a Kliff Kingsbury tattoos or what?
I stole this from Twitter, but somebody subtweeted our tweet that you put out and it said, "We get it, Kliff. You're hot. Chicks want to tattoo your name onto their body." Something I certainly can't relate to, but congrats, Kliff. You didn't have to flex on us like that. You're already in the running for Coach of the Year. Your team's 10-2. Now you got a bunch of women out there with K2 tattoos or Kliff Kingsbury tattoos. Good for you, man. Living his best life.
I didn't have the cojones to ask a follow-up to that.
Yeah.
I would love to know more about what he knows about who has tattoos of him. I'm very curious.
I feel like that's an in-studio question if we ever get him at PHNX headquarters and we can talk to him about that more in depth. But I thought you did a fantastic job asking the tough questions today because that's what the people – listen, no one knows what the hell is happening with the Cardinals today outside of this. PHNX making news, our Frank Sanders. That's what anybody wants to talk about in the Cardinal scope. Check out all the other local outlets. This is what they want. So Chierstin, giving people what they want. Never apologize for that.
Well, and yeah. I'm not gonna lie. I showed my cards a little bit and admitted that I get nervous when I ask questions like that because you never know. Like they could be like, I think Kliff's pretty good with it, but you know, in general, people could be like, okay, you're an idiot. Why are you asking me that question? Or they could be a good sport about it. So I did have to, I was a little nervous about asking those questions, but it was cool to see, you know, somebody slid into Frank's DMs and said that they had told Kliff yesterday that Frank was getting that tattoo. And they talked about, you know, that he said that Kliff said that he was a big fan of Frank's when he was at Auburn. So, you know, I had to ask about that, but turns out he followed him when he was an Arizona Cardinal as well.
Oh, okay.
And so, you know, that's pretty cool for Frank to, you know, like he, you know, Kliff, or probably for Kliff. I don't think that he would admit if he felt like it was cool, but to have a former star receiver in college and as a Cardinal to get a tattoo in your honor as the current Cardinals head coach, I would feel like behind closed doors, he's like, well, shoot. I mean, that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Well, and like Frank Sanders is not some throwaway name. Like we get to hang with Frank, multiple times a week. We feel very blessed, but like he's just like Frank to us. And then he had to remind us, was it yesterday or like a prior show? He's like, guys, that was a big deal at Auburn. I don't know if you guys remember this or not. We're like, we get it, Frank. Like I anytime I pull up his YouTube highlights, like I know Frank Sanders was an alpha player in the NFL. He's a legend at the University of Auburn. So I'm sure Kliff Kingsbury, 10 years older than us, roughly 10 to 12 years older than you and I, remembers fondly of Frank Sanders' time at Auburn. So this is it'd be different if like Joe Schmo, Johnny Venerable got a Kliff Kingsbury tattoo. Then you might get some scoffs and he might be pissed off. But when it's Frank Sanders, it has a little bit more respectability to it.
Yeah, and I will say, like, Frank is so humble, and everybody that I talk to that's within the Cardinals organization that was there back when Frank was playing, like everybody loves Frank. So like, it is a high praise and a compliment for Frank to get a tattoo in your honor. Like seriously, like I think you and I like just sort of take it for granted because, like you said, he just shows up and it's like, "What up, Frank?" And you just don't really
time for the show.
About it. Yeah.
Well,
Frank,
it's like,
did you prepare for the rundown that I sent you?
Yes, I have my chicken scratch piece of paper right here, is what he'll say. But no, like for those of you who don't know, like Chierstin and I had dialogue, weeks before the podcast came to be. But like we literally didn't know Frank was going to be part of our team until like our first practice run doing the show. And we are so fortunate to have him part of our trio here. I couldn't imagine not having Frank on the show after this.
Yeah, I couldn't either. And we'll have to get his reaction to what Kliff had to say. I guess maybe on Friday, next time we see him, which would be Friday. All right, well, let's move on. But keeping the conversation around Kliff Kingsbury and Bill Belichick, because he has now surpassed Kliff for the best odds to win Coach of the Year. On the DraftKings Sportsbook app, Belichick is plus 125. Kliff is plus 350. And then to give you some further context, Matt LaFleur is plus 750. So those are the top three right now. And maybe you can speak a little more to this, Johnny, because you know a little bit more. But is that a significantly greater odd, or is that like Kliff could easily surpass him at any point?
He could surpass him, but that Belichick, you're a heavy favorite. Anytime you get into the plus 100s, that's close to Vegas potentially losing money. So for context, 125 or 135 or whatever it was for Belichick, bet 100, you only win a little bit more than your bet. Whereas with Kliff, you bet 100, you win $350 on top of getting your money back. So once upon a time, Kliff was the front runner in like early November. And I don't know, it's because of this run by the Patriots, and we'll talk about it with Mac Jones, but I don't know how you can't give it to Kliff when people just assume Belichick's the greatest coach of all time. But if you feel like the Cardinals are going to run the table and get the 1 seed in the NFC, which a lot of people do, it is not certainly worth your time to go and put money on Kliff, because that number, if they continue to win, will only go down, and it'll be neck and neck with Belichick. And who knows, voters may not want to vote for Belichick anyway because he's not great with the media. Whereas like Kliff, new name, fresh face, like let's give him his due once, because I'm sure Belichick's won it before. I think he won it the year they went
3 times.
Yeah, so like that plays into it too. So like throwing $10 on that, winning some money is not a bad idea. So
I guess to get into what the Patriots are doing and why Belichick has surpassed Kliff for this, they've won 7 straight after losing 1, 2, 3, 4 of their first 6 games.
Yeah.
I'm doing math right. So they lost 4 of their first 6 games. Things surrounding Belichick were like, Belichick needs to retire. Mac Jones has no future in this league. The Patriots suck. Tom Brady's laughing in their face. They're nothing without him. And then all of a sudden, winners of 7 straight, really turning this thing around. And within that, though, I mean, if you take a look at what their wins are, they beat the Jets. They beat the Chargers, Carolina. None of those wins are very impressive. Not that this is college basketball and good wins and bad losses really matter, but then you've got Cleveland in here, which they totally just 45-7 blew them out. Falcons, Titans, and then that Buffalo game, which I think that I think this is going to be one of those odd games that people will just like kind of never forget, just because he kind of toyed with them. Only threw 3 passes that whole game, one of only a couple of teams to ever do that and still win a game. And I think after that win over the Bills, it really sparked the conversation.
Yeah, like Monday's game was a coaching game, and that strengthens his case. Like, he is not being, carried by some supremely gifted quarterback. And I still think, as much as I appreciate what Kliff's done this year, especially with Colt McCoy, there are people who are uneducated who feel like Kyler Murray carries Kliff, and it's not a mutual partnership. Whatever's happening in New England is all Belichick, and to a lesser extent, their offensive coordinator, Josh McDaniels. Like, their defense is tops in the league. They manufacture points offensively. Their talent's still not great. And I think a lot of people, even with Mac Jones' success, he's limited. He's a limited player right now. And so for him to be taking this step into potentially hosting the AFC and having the AFC run through New England with this band of kind of like misfit players, I think that's why people feel like Belichick should be the winner. I would give it to Kliff because of the fact that most people thought that the Patriots were like maybe a fringe playoff team, and it wouldn't shock anybody. The Cardinals were picked to finish 4th in the division. And then if they win next Monday, essentially 13 weeks into the season, they'll have essentially won their division. That's an esteemed accomplishment if you're Kliff Kingsbury. So I don't think it matters to Kliff, but I would say, like, if you're not going to give it to Kliff for this, like, what would you give it to him for? He literally, he's bested every coach in his division, in the best division in football.
Well, I will say, to the Belichick point, I mean, he's always been known for being able to just plug and play. And he could bring in a no-name guy, plug him into the system, and they'll have success. A star player goes down, plug in a new guy, don't skip a beat. And so I think this is what when you compare the talent that the Patriots have to the talent the Cardinals have, they rely a lot more on what Belichick is able to do as a head coach. And so I get that aspect of it. And the Monday night game definitely showed that, like we've said. But in terms of what Kliff is, they have the best record right now in the NFL. If they finish this season with the best regular season record in the NFL and, secure a spot in the playoffs for the first time since 2015 for this organization and, continue their success, win the West, all these, I mean, I don't understand. I'm with you on that. Like, I just don't
what
understand. What
more does he need to do?
I know, right. It's just like, what else do we have to say about it?
Well, it's like people asking me, I'm sure people ask you, like, can Kyler Murray re-enter the MVP race? And right now the top 3 quarterbacks, or the top 3 individuals in the running, are Murray, Aaron Rodgers, and Tom Brady. And those are the top 3 seeds in the NFC. So I would say winning cures everything. If we look up, fast forward 5 weeks from now, and they'll have won out, which I think is what's going to take for them to be the number 1 seed. They might be able to lose 1, but just to be safe, they win out and they go 15-2, and they win those games. You'd assume Kyler Murray played a big part in that, and then also Kliff Kingsbury leading them to 15 victories. I think both of them, certainly Kliff would be a lock at that point. I don't care what New England does, but Kyler Murray, if he has, I know this isn't the conversation we're having, but it kind of plays into it. If he's having games like he had Sunday where he's scoring touchdowns in bunches, and he's already got the highest, completion percentage in the NFL, the highest quarterback rating in the NFL, all of that stuff takes care of itself with one thing, and that's wins. So as long as they keep continuing to win, they'll be in contention for all those accolades.
Yeah, if you take a look at who's won it in the past too, like last year, Kevin Stefanski coached the Browns to an 11-5 record and won Coach of the Year. 11-5. Previous to that, it was like Jim Harbaugh, 14-2, Matt Nagy, which is funny to think about. 12-4, and then Sean McVay 11-5.
Well, all those teams you just listed, those teams are perennial losers, perennial teams that consistently finish third or fourth in their division. And with all due respect to the Cardinals, that's where the Cardinals have been living for that last half decade plus. That's why you change a culture, right? That's significant. Belichick, the culture's been embedded. Now they lost Tom Brady and they had a rebuilding year at 7-9, but the culture is the culture in New England. The Cardinals had the first pick in the draft 2.5 years ago. And all Kliff Kingsbury has done is getting better every year. So I don't know how you don't give it to Kliff outside of like the East Coast bias thing, but I'm sure if you talk to Kliff about this, he would downplay it. They want one thing. They want to win games and route to a championship.
I think when it comes to an award like this, it means more to probably the fan base than anyone else because they feel like their team, their coach, their, if it's an MVP conversation, their player, quarterback, whatever, is just getting the respect that they deserve. So I feel like this means a lot more to the fans, bragging rights, etc. I think probably when you get that first one, right, like for Kliff to be 3 years into his NFL coaching career and to get a Coach of the Year award that, that is kind of solidifying his spot as a coach in the NFL and that he's able to have success as a coach in the NFL. I think that would probably be pretty special to him, whether he would admit it or not. At the end of the day, winning a Super Bowl is what it's really all about. But in general, I think it's just more so like fans just want to see, their team get the respect they think they deserve.
Absolutely. And you made a great point there. Like I'm sure there are a lot of people that would prefer not to vote for Kliff Kingsbury because they had takes way back when that Kliff Kingsbury should not have been given this job, should not be coaching the NFL. And it's hard to eat that kind of crow. And thankfully for us, Frank Sanders goes above and beyond and gets a tattoo of it. So all we're asking is you vote for Kliff for Coach of the Year. But in all seriousness, like that's a real thing, unfortunately.
Well, if you do want to vote or put money on Coach Kliff Kingsbury to win Coach of the Year, you can download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Use the code PHNX when you sign up, and they've got a deal for you going on right now. If you bet $1 on any team to score a single point in a game, you're going to get $100 in free bets if they do. DraftKings Sportsbook customers can also get skin in the game with new same-game parlays. Combine multiple bets from the same game for a bigger payout. The more likes you add, the more money you can win. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. Best of all, you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. But as always, with the DraftKings Sportsbook app, it's 21 and over, Arizona only. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. New customers only. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. All right. Well, Cardinals Update has a cool fun fact for us. Some cool non-Cardinals topic. The New York Giants are practicing at the University of Arizona this week. Do we know why they're doing that?
I hadn't heard that. Is that a real thing?
I don't know. Why would they be doing
Well, they play the Chargers in LA. Is that close to LA? Is that like a bus drive away from LA? I'm
not really bad at geography.
Yeah, don't put us on the spot here. That sounds like it's probably true.
Well, Cardinals Update, if you know why that's the case, you can go ahead and put it in the chat. I think that's interesting. I had not heard that. So that's probably for the folks down in Tucson that don't have much to do.
Yeah. Is Joe Judge looking for new places to live after the Giants fire him? Is he joining Kliff's staff next year? That's the only thing I can think of.
Interesting stuff. All right. Well, let's get into our mailbag. How about that?
Cool.
Bird Gang Blitz mailbag with a question from Dylan. Who is the biggest surprise so far this season? Marcus, JC, Golden, or Jalen Thompson?
Those are all great questions, recommendations, Dylan. I would say at the end of the day, it's got to be James Conner, given the amount the Cardinals are paying him, given the fact that kind of an afterthought free agent signing in early April. I would probably put Marco Wilson number 2. I mean, we don't even like think about Marco Wilson as a rookie anymore. He's technically like, it's December. He's been starting since week 1. He's a starter on a 10-2 team. Like, he's not a rookie. Those would be my 1 and 1A, 1B. Marcus Golden, I thought, great signing when it happened. We saw some spurts of it last year after the trade. Most of us thought in a full-time role he could get to 10 sacks. And then Jalen Thompson really just had to put it together after an injured season last year. So James Conner could score 20 touchdowns. I don't know how you don't pick James Conner.
Yeah, he has the chance to either tie or surpass the franchise record for most touchdowns in a single season, which I believe is 20. And I would say for sure, I mean, I've talked all these guys up. Maybe I haven't given Jalen Thompson enough credit for what he's done. I think he sort of flies under the radar. He's just not a name that people talk about very much, but he's had a fantastic season and probably exceeded my expectations. But James Conner for sure is a guy that we just didn't know if he would pan out or not. I thought, hey, at this point, I felt like they needed to probably move on from Kenyon Drake. He just wasn't. They needed something a little bit more. He was supposed to be this physical back that could just bulldoze through you, and he just kind of seemed like he last year was just a little soft and just wasn't able to to execute the role that they were hoping that he would be able to. So they brought in James Conner, and I think a lot of people just felt like, I think he's only 27 years old, but that maybe he had played his best football already and didn't know. For sure, just didn't have high expectations. Felt like, all right, this is an okay pickup, and he'll be the second string guy. Chase Edmonds sort of surpassed Kenyon Drake and for that starting spot, and James is a nice backup quarterback. And throughout camp, he was talked about as being there's 1A and 1B, and so he wasn't the second string guy. He was a 1B kind of guy. That's how close they are, but at the end of the day, I don't think most fans considered him, the number 1 guy. And so what he's been able to do and step in, and you hate to see injuries happen, but James Conner has made the absolute most of getting an opportunity this year. And I just love the guy. He's got a great character, does things the right way, just has a history of fighting past adversity, has a lot of perspective on life and football, goes about his business the right way. And I think everything top to bottom, everything about James and what he brings to this team has exceeded my expectations.
Absolutely. NFL AZ Cardinals in the chat has a good question. At the time, letting go of Drake seemed like a bad idea after a good season. Do you think Conner will have the same future as Drake? And if we do let go of Conner, are we okay with Edmonds and Eno? So kind of ironic, we have this discussion today. Kenyon Drake was put on IR by the Las Vegas Raiders today, and that's kind of been a little bit of a disaster signing. I think a lot of people saw that with the amount of money that was guaranteed to Kenyon Drake. To answer your question, so both, for those of you who don't know, Conner and Chase Edmonds are free agents at the end of the year. The only player under contract, Benjamin's making no money as a 7th-round pick. He's under contract for the next 2 years after this season. The question is just, will he continue to make the team? I think there's a better chance Conner is brought back because his skill set is more specialized when compared to Chase Edmonds. This team has to be able to have a big physical back, no matter who it is, whether it's Conner or otherwise, to pair with Kyler Murray. And this is not a knock on Kyler. It's just the reality of the situation. The Cardinals don't have a Justin Herbert or a Josh Allen that can line up under center and manufacture short yardage when they need to. Kyler Murray can't go under center. At least they've never tried this. Again, I'm not trying to knock Kyler. He's 5'10". He can't get 4th and short conversions with his legs under center when they know it's coming. You have to have somebody to convert the short yardage that the Cardinals have done so well this year. After last year, where it was maybe one of the top 5 reasons the team did not make the playoffs. They could not convert in the red zone because they couldn't run the football because, like you mentioned, Chierstin, Kenyon Drake, a little bit soft, couldn't square up his shoulders, and then Chase Edmonds, that's just not his role. So I think from a contract standpoint, Chase Edmonds is going to get more guaranteed money because he's younger, he's got less tread on his tires. you could get James Conner back for a relatively marginal cost. And I think both parties would be better off, and then go get it back in the draft. And the best teams have this running back by committee, but keep the James Conner thing that he does best that ages well is power. Backs with power age better than backs with speed and elusiveness. That can go at any point. So I would say I would assume they would rather keep James because of that.
I agree, and I would probably rather see James as well. And I just didn't think that highly of Kenyon Drake, to be honest with you. So I wasn't too upset about it when they made the deal. Jacob saying James Conner is a certified beast. We agree. The whole league has been put on notice for what he's done here in Arizona. I think everybody agrees with that. Cardinals update with an update for us. The Giants, excuse me, they're practicing here because it's close to their game in LA. They flew in after their Miami game.
I don't think that's going to go well for the Giants, but good for them for able to enjoy some Arizona weather.
Better weather. Yeah, I was going to say, I would do it. If I was them, I would be like, heck yeah, let's spend some time on the West Coast for sure. NFL AZ Cardinals with a question for us. Should we consider Isabella a bust now? Feel bad.
I'll let Chierstin can answer that.
Andy's my favorite. I would say so. At this point,
Can I say something?
Yes, sure.
Before the game on Sunday, he was one of two players out in the rain it had to have been like 8:45, and the kickoff was at noon, catching passes out and trying to get better. So it's not for lack of trying. He tries really hard, and he is on. I mean, he made the team this year. I didn't even know if he was going to make the team, but at the end of the day, you have to produce, right? But not for lack of trying.
Yeah, and the last time we talked about Andy is, I mentioned that he needs to go to a team. There's definitely teams out there that need depth at wide receiver, and if he could get on a team somewhere else the Cardinals don't need him. And so if he could get on a team where, they need another guy, they need a burner, because we all know that the guy can run. I mean, there's two things that have probably helped him get to where he's at in just having a spot on the roster is his speed and then just his work ethic, because I've heard many stories about how studious he is, how he comes in early, stays late. And so whether it's studying or whether it's like you mentioned, he's out there in the rain catching extra passes, knowing that he's not even, going to get a snap in an actual game, speaks a lot about him. I would say probably at this point he's considered a bust, unfortunately, but I think he just needs an opportunity to develop a little bit more with another team. And I for his sake, I hope that he gets that in his future.
So Cardinals update puts in a note here in the chat that I want to highlight. The fact that Rondell is thriving in that role, Isabella was going to be, makes it even worse for Andy. I think also Cardinals update, the fact that they didn't move him at the deadline, because you'd be hard pressed. I'd have to be convinced that teams, they were calling, Ian Rappaport said they were calling. The Cardinals didn't want to just give him away for a conditional 6th or 7th round pick. They value him enough this year in what they view as a championship season that if something were to happen to Rondell, they would want Andy to be able to come in and have a role. And so he means more to them this season than a throwaway late round pick. Next offseason, we'll see. But I think that the point you're making is spot on. That Rondell role was supposed to be Andy once upon a time.
All right, before we move on, if you love what we're doing at PHNX, you want more of this hot dog eating, tattoo getting cruise content.
Hot dog.
Yeah, you didn't see that over on the Coyote Show?
I did. That was
Craig
good.
Morgan, something. He was apparently doesn't like ketchup or something. He ate a ketchup hot dog. I don't know, whatever. I love ketchup, so I would gladly eat that. But
with hot sauce,
if you want more of the content that we're producing, which you're not going to get anywhere else, please become a member of the family. Join us at gophnx.com. If you do sign up to be a member, you're going to get a free t-shirt of your choosing from phnxlocker.com. I also don't. We launched. It's on our social media, but we launched these limited edition stickers that are freaking awesome. A lot of them are the same logos that are on our t-shirts. And once they're sold out, you're never going to get them again. And we just launched those as well. And you can find those on our website, and we've tweeted out the pictures of them and everything. But like, they're the cutest little things, and I just want to put them on my computer.
That's what I was just about to say. If you got kids, put them in their stocking stuffers for this holiday. That's what I'm going to do.
There you go. There you go. Alex is asking, who is next to get a tattoo at PHNX? That would be Johnny if the Cardinals win the Super Bowl.
Correct. I get to pick it. It would go somewhere where you can't really ever see it after I get it. Maybe like my upper shoulder or something. But I will get a tattoo with the Cardinals win the Super Bowl. 100%. And I don't have any. Some
angel wings with like the Cardinals logo in the middle.
Sure. I would probably get the Super Bowl trophy with like Cardinals.
Okay. Okay. Got it.
The Lombardi trophy.
Question for Johnny. What was the field on the Cardinals on the, I'm not sure what this question is.
Prior and after, this team seems more Are you asking NFL AZ?
Oh, the field. What was the field on the Cardinals on the field prior and after? This team seems together and focused more than ever. Am I wrong?
Well, I can tell you. I mean, Chierstin's seen plenty of football too, especially from last year. But in terms of like Sunday, this team was incredibly loose. They're a historically great road team. I think we can say that now. They are at the Detroit Lions double-digit win away from being maybe the greatest road team of all time. Think about that. No team will have done what they're tied for the best start ever for a road team, winning 7 in a row, all by double digits. Nobody's done it 8-0. So they have something at on the road where they just feel confident and comfortable that they're going to take care of business. They need to harness that at home for whatever reason. I don't know what the deal is at home, but they were out there. Half the players were in shorts and cut off sleeves. I mean, I was freezing. It was cold out.
Johnny, that's like normal for football players. It's like it'll be like a blizzard, and there's guys out there with no.
Yeah, but on. They're from the desert, so everybody thinks that they're going to be soft and mentally weak when they go out there and have to play in the cold. I'm just trying to dispel a lot of these stereotypes about this team, but no, it's the closest group since the Arians groups for sure. Everybody loves everybody.
Jordan P asking, Moore and Kirk started the season hot. Do you think either of them go off versus the Rams?
100%, because Jalen Ramsey, DeAndre Hopkins, I still think they'll try to get the ball to D-Hop, but I think here's what hurts the Rams. The Rams can be slow in their secondary. Their linebacking core is not great. Cardinals have mismatches. You saw it with AJ Green last time where he bodied that Rams corner. This game, I think they're going to throw it all over the place because you can on the Rams.
I agree. We've got one more official Bird Gang Blitz question, but feel free to continue to ask questions in the chat. We're more than happy. I think Wednesdays we want to move towards just flat out having conversations with you guys here in the chat. Yes. And just taking your questions and trying to answer them to the best of our abilities. So we've got another official one that came from Twitter. Which side of the ball has the most room for improvement with 5 games left before an imminent playoff berth?
I would say the defense only from a run preventing standpoint, defense standpoint. That's like the one wart on this team right now, because I know when Justin Pugh comes back, I think next week, and Chase Edmonds comes back with the way Max Garcia is playing at right guard, Rodney Hudson's back, there is no limitations for this offense. I expect 30-plus points every week. This offense is absolutely loaded. There are no weaknesses by and large. The defense, specifically the defensive line, and how the inside linebackers play the run is the one concern I think everybody has. But I saw today, they've given up the 5th fewest passing touchdowns in the NFL. They're tremendous in coverage. And that's when a lot of teams try to throw on them late because they're behind. It's garbage time. So consider that as well. So I would just say the defense, just because of the run defense has not been great.
Yeah, and again, that's another thing that we've been talking about all season. Don't tell Brenson Buckner that, though.
No,
he doesn't
we'll
want to
get
hear
yelled at.
any of it. But yeah, I mean, if there's honestly one thing and one thing only that you can possibly point to on either side of the ball with the Cardinals that could be considered a weakness, and that is their run defense. But speaking of their defense, it's worth a quick mention just because he's one of my favorites, and we were also talking about kind of exceeding expectations, is Jordan Hicks, officially NFC Defensive Player of the Week for his performance against the Bears. Chandler Jones called him the heart and quarterback of the team's defense. That Mike linebacker always considered the quarterback of the defense, but to be considered the heart of the defense, and we all know his story and what he was up against this offseason and heading into this season. But I mean, I love the story. I think this might be his first ever Player of the Week honors, and I respect the heck out of him. And this defense, you can't talk about the defense without mentioning Jordan Hicks' name.
You love the underdogs. You love Andy Isabella, who I thought was going to be cut. You love Jordan Hicks, who I thought was going to be traded. And the Hicks pick proved to be phenomenal by the Cardinals to keep him around, kind of like Hassan Reddick last year, when a lot of people were like, get him out of here. He can't play. It's 2 consecutive seasons where we've had linebackers where people doubted them and they've had career years. So happy for Jordan, happy for his family. I would say with every passing week, this goes on and on like this, I would say it's a stronger and stronger chance the Cardinals opt to pay him. I think his salary is like relatively reasonable next year. I mean, do you doubt he's going to be on the team next year? He's under contract.
Yeah, no, I mean, I feel pretty confident saying that he'll be on the team again next year for sure. I mean, especially because he's under contract, but I think they like what they have. And we know Vince Joseph likes what he has in Jordan Hicks.
Yeah.
But 13 tackles, 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss, 2 quarterback hits was his performance. So hats off to you, Jordan Hicks. All right, Cardinals update. What if Watt comes back in the NFC Championship game or Super Bowl? Would you just have him as a rotational defensive lineman or plug him back into the role he had?
So I can take a crack at this. I think he's coming back. I told Chierstin this, I think on this show. Week 18 at home against Seattle, I think that will be his tune-up game for the playoffs. I think that regardless of what seeding they are, I think that's the week he comes back. And I think rotational player to start, and then try getting J.J. Watt out of a playoff game when the Cardinals need him. They will have to just use a crane to be able to get him off the field. So rotational player in week 18, get his bearings about him. But then, like, if this team's playing in Lambeau or they're hosting Tampa or the Cowboys, I think he'll play like 90% of the snaps.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if he gets back on the field, the ultimate goal should be to plug him back into the role that he had. But it's easier said than done. I mean, there would have to be a period where he's just kind of getting back into the groove of things, and it would have to be a situation where he's more of a rotational piece. But I would think with a guy like J.J. Watt, if he's able to come back, they're going to want him to be on the field as much as possible and to get back to the role that he had as much as possible.
You're going to be in good shape if and when you get Watt back. Rashard Lawrence, who we hope can come back in the coming weeks. He's a good run defender. And then now you've got a steady mix of B-plus defensive linemen that can supplement his A's without having to play too many snaps, because, you know, the big guys, they can't. There are only so many elite defensive linemen that can play 90+% of the snaps and be an impact player every snap. So I think you get, even if you have 75% of JJ Watt, that's plenty good enough. This team can already rush the passer without him. What he was doing too, when the run defense was improving, it was because of his penetration. So if anything, if he can just bring some of that back, the Cardinals are going to be much better off. So week 18, I'll stick with that prediction.
All right, we'll take a few more questions, but first, got to remind you guys about the DraftKings Sportsbook app and the promotion they have going on right now. If you download the app, use the code PHNX, bet $1 on any team to score in a football game. You're going to win $100 in free bets if they do. It's that simple. And my favorite part of it is you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want on the DraftKings Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, and reliable, and it's why Johnny and I love to use the app. That's our go-to app when it comes to sports betting. All right, we'll take a few more questions. How about NFL AZ Cardinals again? Rams fans are super confident with Stafford, even though he's 6-17 in primetime games. And I compare Stafford to Cousins with the Vikings. Overpaid and nothing to show for it. Is my comparison right?
I think he's more talented than Cousins, but I mean, his resume, it's not as good as Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins has been to the playoffs multiple times. I think he's been to the divisional round. He had that win against the Saints. This was supposed to be kind of Stafford's, crowning with another competent franchise. A lot of people put ownership on the Lions, and rightfully so. They're not a well-run team, but it could be too little too late. With each passing week, he looks poorly, and I don't think he'll ever torpedo. I think he'll still be good enough for them to win games, but I think they thought, Chierstin, they were getting like an elite level player, and that's not who he is right now. So I will say he is overrated in that standpoint.
Yeah, I'm surprised you're going so easy on him, because I feel like you are the person that likes to expose the Rams and Stafford for being frauds. But I agree. Right now, he definitely with the Rams would be considered overpaid with nothing to show for it. Now, there's still time to right that ship, I suppose, moving forward. The season's certainly not over for them yet, and we'll see how things pan out moving forward. But I feel like that's probably a pretty good comparison, all things considered. A lot of people think that Cousins is garbage as well, even though I like the guy, but you could certainly argue that. So overpaid, nothing to show for it. That's probably a pretty good comparison.
We watched Jared Goff tear this defense up for years, so we'll welcome Stafford and his pick sixes.
Do you see the NFC West division still as the best next year in the NFL? Lots of questions with the Seahawks and 49ers. That is looking way far ahead.
I think they're still one of the best, but if the Seahawks go in complete rebuild tank mode and they're trading off Russell Wilson and they have no picks anyway because of the Jamal Adams
they're not
deal,
going to be good. Yeah. Seahawks
they'll be
good.
And if the Niners can sneak into the playoffs, people will be behind them next year, even with Trey Lance. And then who knows how the Cardinals and the Rams finish. I think it'll be in consideration, but compared to what people were calling this historically the best division of the last 20 years entering this season, and who knows, they could still have 3 playoff teams, but I think the way the NFL is supposed to be run is there's parity and teams trend up and trend down. So I would say, no, I don't think it'll be the best division next year.
All right, let's cap it off with this, and which is really circling back to what we kind of began this podcast talking about. So if you are a little bit late to the party, Alex has got you covered with one revisit to cap this podcast off. Does Kliff get Coach of the Year, or does the NFL give it to Bill? Isn't this a media? Isn't it media that votes on this award, the AP award?
Sports writers. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's not the league doesn't give it out. It's voted on by members of sports media. So, which it's always interesting. I feel like the West Coast in general doesn't get as many eyeballs on their games, and so you've got a bunch of reporters, and I think they probably try and sprinkle in to make it fair. It's not just people on the East Coast, but I feel like for the most part, it's a lot of people that don't pay quite as much attention to what's going on out here, out West. So sometimes that can play a factor into it. And there might be a little bit of a bias towards New England and just what they have done historically and what Bill Belichick has been able to do. But, overall, I think it kind of matters how these two teams finish out the year. And I still think that Kliff has a great opportunity. And if I was voting, and I'm biased aside, if I was voting, just knowing and seeing with my eyes what Kliff's been able to do, including, win a game when he's not even there, and just, coaching from his house virtually and stuff like that during the week to install a game plan, and just a long list of things that he has been able to pull off this year, I mean, he would without a doubt have my vote. And again, I know that Bill Belichick right now is the favorite in terms of odds to win the award, to win Coach of the Year. But I mean, Kliff's the Coach of the Year, in my opinion.
I saw a graphic today, I don't know who had it, Fox or ESPN, and it showed all the division leaders in the NFL on both the NFC and the AFC. And really the only one that people didn't assume, maybe outside of New England with Buffalo, was the Cardinals. And I think it's just such a glaring difference in Green Bay, right? And the Cowboys and the Buccaneers, right? All the teams that were projected to be good are good. And then there's a team out west that was picked 4th place. And this coach was the first on the hot seat to be fired.
Yep.
And they have the best record in the NFL. I just, as much as I can appreciate what Bill's doing, taking the 5th quarterback drafted and potentially having the number 1 seed in the AFC, which may or may not hold up, for the Cardinals to have the number 1 seed potentially in the AFC, or the NFC, which I think is what will do it. If he outbeats or outlasts the Packers and the Buccaneers to get the number 1 seed, I think that will seal the deal for Coach of the Year, just because the AFC has kind of cannibalized itself a little bit. And a lot of the teams, like there aren't any great teams, I feel like, in the AFC. There are great players like Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes, whereas like the best teams are in the NFC. The 3 to 4 best teams are in the NFC. So,
well, even take a look at the Bills. Like, I think they were, projected to be one of the top teams and potentially win the AFC at the start of the
lost
season.
5 games.
They've fallen apart. So
the margin for error in the NFC is so razor slim. And if Kliff Kingsbury comes out on top and he wins like 14, 15 games, that would be a complete farce for him not to win Coach of the Year. But this team thrives on being an underdog and being disrespected. So whatever works, I guess.
And we saw from what happened with the Suns last year that the coach who deserves to win it doesn't always win it. So
yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point. A lot of people don't want to hear that.
Well, we are so excited. I've got a little calendar countdown that I'm Xing off every day that we get closer to our block party for the Cardinals Rams game on this Monday, December 13th. We're putting on a party from 3 to 6 p.m. We've teamed up with Bird Gang Travel Club and the Lola. We're expecting hundreds of you out there. Tickets are just $55 right now at birdgangtravel.com. And it's all you can eat, all you can drink. Last time there was a nacho bar, which I circled back about 3 times and had many plates of nachos. All you can drink, premium beverages, and music, fun, giveaways. It's going to be an absolute blast. And this is a huge game for the Cardinals. And so the only way, I feel like the right way to prepare for such a thing, such an event, is to come to our block party beforehand.
We're trying not to go 0 for 2 in our nationally televised block parties. So we need some good mojo, and we need you guys to come attend. We lost the Packer game. Now come out to the Lola. Let's celebrate a playoff berth and potentially a division title with your friends here at Bird Gang Travel Club and PHNX. It's going to be a hell of a time. So come out and hang out with us.
Yeah, we can't wait to see you guys all there. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, wherever you get your podcasts, please do that for us as well. And follow us on Twitter at PHNX_Cardinals. We've always got the latest updates from the team. We tweet out our articles, things from press conferences, and a whole lot, lots of other content. Plus, you get notifications when we're doing a show. So please hit that subscribe button on all the things, social and digital media, and we will see you on Friday.